Can everyone hear me? Okay. We are returning from closed session, so we will proceed with our agenda. There is nothing to report out of the closed session. It was just an update for us. Okay. We will proceed now with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Megan, I would like for you to lead us, please.
Please stand. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What? Yeah.
Okay, Karen, would you please call the roll?
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Malloy,
Here.
Director Mishler,
Here.
Director Dixon,
Here.
Chair Magner.
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
No.
Okay.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Chair Magner.
Aye. Okay, number 5, public comments. In accordance with Government Code Section 35954.3, the board reserves this time to hear from the public. If you'd like to speak about an item on the agenda, we would prefer you complete a speaker card, give it to the clerk of the board, and wait until it comes up. If you would like to make comments about other areas not on the agenda, in accordance with California law, we listen, note them, and bring them back at a later date for discussion if appropriate. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. Okay, these all seem to be on the same subject. That's why I got everybody together, so I know who's going to speak in what order. So, the first.
Not an agenda item.
It's not an agenda item, sir. Okay. Audrey and Nora, would you like to step up, please?
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Directors. My name is Audra Seldine. I live at 222 Ramona Place. This is Nora Ryan. She lives at 50 Ramona Place. We are members of the Las Posas Trails Committee, speaking with regard to the Las Posas Equestrian Park and Trails System. We are attempting to help the Park District with their decision of what to do with the Las Posas Equestrian Park because in March 2023, an agreement reached 30 years ago regarding the park requires a decision to be made. One of the 4 options considered by the district is to sell the park and relinquish the trails. This, of course, raised great concerns in our equestrian zone community because it is now the only equestrian park in our district and the last place to ride in Las Posas since the Park District stopped maintaining the Sterling Hills Trail about 2 or 3 years ago. Our committee sent a survey and a petition to 550 homes in the Las Posas Estates area. It's about half, which included 83 homes in Las Posas Hills, where the park is located. On January 14, 2020, 2 of our committee members attended a 40-minute meeting of your long-term planning committee with Director Malloy and Director Kelly. 5 members of the park staff were present. Mr. Kelly graciously suggested to wait for the results of the survey before taking any action on this park, and the other that were present agreed. Our survey and petitions are now in, and we will now prepare an in-depth report of the information and deliver the original petitions that Mrs. Ryan is packing here to the Long-Term Planning Committee on March 10th, this next week from tonight, I think. Next Wednesday here. So I'll read the petition. Petition to Pleasant Valley Recreation Park District. We, the undersigned, ask to keep the Las Posas Equestrian Park and Trails as a continuing resource for recreation, open space, and exercise for the people of Las Posas Hills and Las Posas Estates as it has been for the last 30 years. Please keep the facility as it is currently, a low-key, low-cost recreational resource for equestrians and pedestrians. 391 signatures are on these petitions. Each signature would represent an entire family, although there are a few single residents as well. If you would call Kristen Loft as your next speaker, she will give you a brief summary of the survey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nora, do you want to leave those with us?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right, okay.
We'll be turning them in at the planning committee. We're
Oh,
gonna
you're,
turn-
okay, so you all, or one or two of you will be attending that meeting? Okay, all right, okay. Kristen Loft?
Good evening, directors, chairman, and staff. My name is Kristen Loft, and I'm a member of the Las Posas Trails Committee. We attended the district's long-range planning meeting on October 24th, 2019, because the future of the Las Posas Equestrian Park and Trails was on the agenda. At this meeting, we were given a packet prepared by park staff that included a memo providing a brief history of the park, analysis of data gathered by cameras, and a list of 4 options recommended for the director's consideration about what to do with the equestrian park and trails. We thought it very important that the Las Posas community be given an opportunity to weigh in on the future of the park. So we created a survey that reflected the 4 district staff options along with questions about trail usage and other related information. Before sending it out, we emailed our survey to district staff who reviewed it and made some suggestions which we incorporated. The survey results that we have received so far have been a landslide. 98% of the households want to keep the park and the trails. Of this 98%, 46% want the park to stay as it is now, a multi-use trail for hikers, dog walkers, and riders. 42% wants to keep the park and trails and reestablish a connected trail system. 8% wants to keep the park as it is now and add amenities such as a bathroom, picnic table, or a drinking fountain. 2% wants to keep the park but change it to more of a kids' park, which I guess means swings and monkey bars. Another 2% are neutral, they don't care. And only 1 survey responder wants to sell the park and abandon the trails. Other information was gathered from the survey, which includes the following. 75% of the households use the trails to hike, walk their dogs, or to ride horses. Household responders reported having 70 horses. And they use the arena to practice for competitions, pleasure riding, and turning horses out for exercise. In addition to horses, there are mini horses, donkeys, steers, and goats in the Las Posas area that are walked on the trails or turned out in the arena for exercise. Is it okay if I, oh, I see it.
Yep.
Responders reported that they or their children have used the arenas to practice for horse shows and other events such as 4-H, some of whom went on to become high-level equestrian competitors or parade participants. This includes some of the Camarillo white horse riders who have recently participated in parades, a documentary movie, and historical events. 7 household responders said they are going to get horses in the
Kristen,
future.
how much farther do you have?
I'm almost done.
Okay.
Just that.
Okay. go
I can
for it.
talk really fast if I have
Okay.
to. 6 households said they moved to this area specifically to have horses, including my family, who has lived in Rancho Las Posas since 1968. 15 responders said they didn't even know there were trails or arenas in the Las Posas area. As promised, all of the surveys that we have received will be turned over to the district's long-range planning committee at their next meeting for their review and future help to keep and maintain the Las Posas equestrian arena and trails. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Sandy Williamson? Go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman, Madam Chairman, and Directors. My name is Sandy Williamson, and I'm a member of the Las Posas Trails Committee. I am here this evening to ask the district to keep Las Posas Equestrian Park and to continue maintaining the surrounding trails. My family and I moved to Camarillo in 2016 from the city of Sherman Oaks in LA County. We thought this would be a better area to raise our children and our horses. Prior to moving to Camarillo, we had spent 2 years looking for a home with horse property. We finally found and bought a house in Las Posas Estates where we could keep our horses in our backyard. We chose this neighborhood specifically because of the equestrian park and trails being available to give us a place where we could exercise our horses. My family and I ride in the arenas and on the trails most days of the week. Without the park and trails, we will be left with no other option than riding on the streets, which has become a very dangerous option with so many speeding drivers on the roads and no shoulder. I am asking Pleasant Valley Park and Rec Department to please keep our beautiful Las Posas Equestrian Park and to please continue maintaining the trail. There are 28 parks in Camarillo, parks for children, parks for sports, a park for roller skating, for bike riding, for radio-controlled cars, and even 2 dog parks. But there is only 1 horse park and only a small equestrian trail system left in Camarillo. My children and I and other equestrians in the community need a safe place to exercise our horses. Don't let Camarillo become more and more like Los Angeles by extinguishing what little is left here of the beautiful rural lifestyle. I'd like to share parts of a letter that were sent to our committee, the Las Posas Trail Committee, from a Mr. Myring of Las Posas Hills. Hello. First, I would like to thank you for all your efforts to protect our beautiful trail and riding arenas. Your letter was spot on and questionnaire perfect. Great work. My wife and I purchased our home on Alviso just over a year ago to raise our 4 daughters. We fell in love with this home because of the yard space, the ability to raise our 4-H projects, access to the trail system, and maintained arenas. Our 2 older daughters have raised goats with 4-H, both in the FFA program at Camarillo High. Our 2 younger daughters are entering the age to also consider participating with projects. We fully intend to have more 4-H projects being raised on our property. I also fell in love with this property because I plan on developing a 4-stall barn and moving our horses home. This location is perfect for keeping our horses legged up and in shape. I would be devastated if the trail system and arenas went away. Again, I thank you for all your efforts in keeping our equestrian lifestyle alive. Please let me know if I can help in any way. Thank you, Mr. Myring. And I'd like to add that there are many other residents who share our sentiments. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Janie?
I am Janie Kasarjan. I live on Marine View Drive in Camarillo, and I've been a Camarillo resident for 27 years. And Director Kelly, I think I spoke to you on the phone many times in the past, speaking about our trail system and our arenas. And I just want to speak for the greater equestrian community. I compete. I know some of the girls here also compete, so I'm in touch with riders from all over Southern California. And if you're not an equestrian, I don't think you realize the value of the equestrian property in Southern California. In Camarillo, there are so few places available for equestrians to live the lifestyle that we live here. And it drew me, and it drew most of my friends to Camarillo from other parts of Southern California. I started out in Westlake and decided to drive 25 miles further to work in order to live here in Las Posas Estates, which I love, and I have invested quite a bit of money into my property, into my equestrian facility, into my home. I know most of my equestrian friends have done the same, which increases the values of our home, brings tax dollars to Camarillo as our property values are increased, and it would be a very sad thing to see this change. There are very, very few places like this. It's every 25 miles you can hit a little touch of a horse community. And I looked in Calabasas, Agoura Hills, Thousand Oaks, and this is where I settled. My neighborhood is filled with old-time horse people, and a few new people have moved into the neighborhood, and they're also developing their properties. And it's a very, very special, unique area that can't be duplicated in other parts of Southern California. And I think it's sad if people in this area don't realize the value of it. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I hope that the committee and the community stands behind the equestrians and the uniqueness of this area for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Talia?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Telia Schonewald Long, and I live at 645 Deer Hunter Lane. My family moved to the Las Posas Estates in 1994, and I took my very first horse riding lessons at the Las Posas Equestrian Park shortly after that, and I became completely hooked on horses. I eventually went on to represent Adolfo Camarillo High School in the Interscholastic Equestrian League, and in the years after graduating from college, I became a California state and nationally ranked competitor in the equestrian sport of three-day eventing. I retired my horse from competition to my family's property in the estates about 3 years ago, and I now ride exclusively at the equestrian park. Since those first lessons many years ago, I've sadly witnessed a decline in the maintenance of the equestrian park as well as trail access to the park. I used to be able to ride on trails from our home on Cerro Crest Drive and only needed to cross a road at one point to get to the arenas. Now I have to ride about 3/4 of a mile on the streets, including Valley Vista Drive, which is quite dangerous. It's very narrow to no bike lane and no shoulders. Rather than risk a horrible accident with a car, I choose most often to trailer my horse to the park, and I have to borrow a truck to pull my trailer, so this limits me to being able to ride only up to about 3 days per week. The footing in the arenas also really needs some TLC. Horses in general are susceptible to leg injuries, and the footing we ride them on is a huge factor. My horse has carried me to some of the greatest accomplishments of my life so far, and the last thing I want to do is risk his life by making him exercise on unsafe footing. The footing in the arenas is getting close to the point where I wouldn't feel comfortable riding there. I was very excited to recently meet some other neighborhood equestrians and longtime equestrian park users, but I was very worried to learn that the park and trails could be at risk in the near future. I love the equestrian park and trails, and I'm very passionate about working with the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park Department, as well as my neighbors and the Las Posas Trails Committee, to maintain the existence and the upkeep of the Las Posas Equestrian Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, that is all the cards I have. And you've all been, you know, when the meeting will be next week. Okay, all right. So the committee will look forward to seeing you guys at that meeting, all right? So until then, we will do nothing. Thank you for coming, though. We appreciate it. Okay, 6, consent agenda. Do we need to remove anything, or do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Karen?
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Dixon,
Aye.
Chair Magner.
Aye. Okay, on to new items. Number 7A, Journey the Church Agreement. Eric?
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, general manager, staff, guests, and viewers at home. Eric Story, your Recreation Services Manager, and tonight I bring before you for consideration and action a third agreement between the district and Journey the Church for use of the community center on Burnley. I will be bringing that to you shortly. Well, Anthony, go ahead and... All right, so the next few slides are going to be the background as to how we got here today. 2013, the district and Journey to the Church entered into a 3-year agreement for use of the community center with specific days and times, which equate to total 3-year contract hours of 10,650. During that 3-year contract, the payment from Journey to the district was $85,500 plus a certain number of agreements, which one is highlighted here is $40,000 of audio video equipment, which was installed in the auditorium, which now belongs to the district. After that, Journey and the district agreed to enter into a new 3-year agreement, which will carry us through the end of this month. As you see, they were growing, which is a great problem to have. The challenge is we were also growing. Let me go ahead. All right, still not. As you see, their contract, their needs, as I mentioned, grew. So it was not just standard days and times, but they also had additional programming, which again is great for an organization that's growing. Slide. Now, as part of this agreement, there was also program support provided by Journey, which is indicated here for various programs and events. So the total 3-year contract hours for agreement number 2 was 11,886, and a 3-year contract payment of $117,000 plus, again, additional improvements. So that got us to negotiating. The Journey to the Church wanted to. We sat and we had a couple ad hoc committees, which Director Magner and Director Malloy were a part of, as well as members of Journey to the Church and staff, which they indicated that they were looking to grow and move elsewhere. They submitted a request a non-renewal notice, but also indicated that they may need to rent the community center for a short amount of time while they finalize plans for growing their organization. So an ad hoc committee, as I mentioned, with Directors Magner and Malloy, were formed to discuss the contractual items. So the ad hoc committee met on those dates in 2019 and up until February 21st of 2020. The discussions, to be short about it, were use days and times, the rate and the responsibilities of who sets up, who breaks down, enforcement of policies and procedures, banner placement and limitations. So agreement number 3 is going to be 15 months, starting April 1st of this year, leading through the end of our fiscal year next year. It includes Sundays, Tuesdays, Easter week to include Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, both this year and next year, and Christmas week for this year, as the agreement only goes through the end of June next year. It won't include Christmas week. So as indicated in the contract and the staff report, any additional requests outside of the normal regular use hours and dates and times will be at the Class 2 rate, which is identified in Ordinance 8 under resident organizations / nonprofit, which Journey falls under. What this also includes is the $25 administrative fee whenever they submit an additional request use. Journey is also wanting to identify and needed some time to work on maintenance items for the equipment in the auditorium, so that is built into the contract as well. The district and Journey in the agreement number 3 have added a termination clause, which is 180 days notice and or material breach by either party. So for this new agreement, it's a 3-year contract hours of 12,159 or a little more than 4,000 hours annually for a 3-year contract payment of $180,000, which equates to $60,000 annually or $5,000 a month.
Eric, can I just ask you a question there on that statement before we go? You said this, originally you said this was going to be a 15-month agreement. Now you're talking about 3 years. Am I confused about something?
Excuse me, that was error on that one. It's a 15-month agreement.
Well, right, but then I saw 3 years up there and I'm confused.
It is 15. That's an error, Director.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep. So here's a fiscal breakdown for each of the agreements, both based on the hours and the payment from Journey. So over the course of the 7.5-year agreement or so, $382,000 as revenue to the district. So it is recommended the Board of Directors approve a 15-month agreement, which is Agreement 3, with Journey to the Church for use of the community center. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, all of those 3-year references are confusing
Right.
me as well, and I have no idea why they're there, because we're talking about a agreement that lasts for 15 months. And, they're still interested in taking the next step in their progress, which would mean outgrowing us. And the 180 days notice allows them to find a place and gives them the time they need to get the tenant improvements and all that made, and also gives us adequate notice so that we can find other uses for the space that they're using, and give us adequate time to get it in our marketing materials and to find a replacement user for those facilities. So, what they choose to do is what will be best for them, and the agreement here is an attempt to make the finances work better for the district and reflect our costs, as well as meet their needs to have the time to make a good decision, because finding an appropriate location and organizing doing it is a big challenge, and but this gives them plenty of time, and then also gives them options to extend beyond. The numbers are pretty clear. So.
Yeah.
No, I've looked at it and I'm okay with it.
Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, I've looked at it and it looks okay to me. It's kind of a fair agreement. I also want to provide some background. I remember 15 years ago, ASO kind of got in the same position here, and I was helping them out as a volunteer 15 years ago, and basically they were trying to get space here for their meetings and stuff, and they just couldn't get it here at the community center. ASO had grown so much, and the use and capacity of our site here had grown so much that they could no longer get the rooms and meeting rooms and stuff they needed to do here. And I was actually part of the 3-person committee group from ASO who went out and found a warehouse and did all the work on that, go through that process. And ASO then moved into, the last 15 years or so, they have a warehouse here, an office space for all their meetings and training and all that type of stuff. So it happens. That's a good thing. So, and so there's nothing bad about this. It's just, like Mark said, it's exactly what happens when an organization grows too large. And we can't meet their demands, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing or anything, so thank you.
Bob?
I have nothing.
Okay. And I have nothing. Thank you, Eric. Okay. What is the pleasure of the board? Do I have a motion? Oh, Mary, do you want to say something? Okay.
Would Jeff like to speak?
Oh, you want to speak?
Madam Chairman, board, staff, we're just thankful. We're grateful that we've been able to grow with you. And, we don't have a place right now, so 15 months seems like a short time when you don't have any place. So hopefully we have no idea what's going to happen, but without you guys, we wouldn't be where we're at and in that growth pattern. So thank you for all that you've done, and our congregation. One of my board members are here, and we just want to thank you for the relationship that we have, and whatever goes forward, if it's 15 months or 15 years, we have no idea at this point, but we're really grateful. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Okay.
Let me make a motion that the Board of Directors approve the 15-month agreement with Journey the Church for the use of the community center.
I'll second.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Mishler,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Dixon.
Aye.
Chair Magner.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to 7B, consideration and approval of a 6-week turf maintenance and rest closure at Springville Dog Park. Nick, you are on.
Good evening, Chair Magner, members of the board, Nick Marienthal, Park Supervisor. So tonight, we're here to, is it working now? Perfect, thank you. Tonight, I'm here to talk about Springville Dog Park turf closure. Springville Park was developed in 1997 as a 5-acre park. And in 2013, the district converted a low-use softball field into what is now Springville Dog Park. Springville is a very unique park due to the fact that that entire park's nearly all turf. In the last year, we did make some changes. We put a walking path around the whole perimeter, which all the users really appreciate and love. So And here's a few other things we've done since the development of the dog park. Along with help of Friends of Camarillo Dog Park, we've installed pavers, trees, retaining wall, and fencing. Completely redid the entire irrigation system. Again, the DG walking path, and added dog drinking fountains. Springville's been received well by all the residents. As a matter of fact, we get residents from all over, not just Camarillo, but Thousand Oaks, Oxnard, Newberry Park, just because the fact is that park is just so well maintained and well taken care of. And that's led to 7-a-day-a-week usage, which has resulted in noticeable wear in the overall turf and significant damage throughout the park. So our current operating hours are 7 a.m. till dusk, 7 days a week, with quite a few visits. 75 minimum, I'd say that's probably kind of low. I can't tell you a time I've been there where that parking lot's not full. It doesn't matter if it's in the morning or in the evening. To mitigate the compaction and wear, as well as maintain the turf, staff closes the park a couple times a year, but we only close for about a week, and that's just not adequate time to give that turf and the soil the rest it needs. So by allowing a 6-week closure, you'll allow staff to do all the necessary turf maintenance practices that's required to rejuvenate that turf. So here's some pictures. This is coming into the small dog park, and then you can see it's pretty bare there. That's coming into the large dog park. So to address the current needs, the following maintenance items will be addressed. We'll do herbicide treatment, and to be honest with you, there's not too much broadleaf or invasive weeds out there, so that'll be minimal. We'll follow that by dethatching, aerification. We'll sod some of the worst areas, and then we'll overseed, followed by fertilization, and we'll top dress. But the key thing there is the rest. We need a long rest period. So again, the main focus will be the turf renovation, and while the turf is being renovated and we have that rest period, we will be opening another temporary dog park like we did when we had the closure last year out at Freedom Park, and that'll be located on the west end again. And this will allow an alternative place for all the residents to take and socialize their dogs. So the closure date would be March 30th through May 11th. And the district will post signs throughout the park as well as to our website. So the fiscal impact would be $2,000 for the installation of the temp fence located out at Freedom Park, and this can be absorbed as part of the current budget and will not need any further allocation.
Okay.
So it is recommended that the Board of Directors authorize and approve the turf maintenance closure for Springville Dog Park and approve a temporary dog park to be located out at Freedom Park. And with that, is there any questions?
Mark?
You want me to start?
Yeah. Would you like to start?
Sure.
Or do you want me to come to you last?
No, I'll start.
Okay.
Last year when we had this very extended closure and the board passed a policy to not have any of the parks closed without our approval, I sort of thought it was clear to the staff that we didn't want parks closed. We wanted parks maintained. And that's why we took this step of, an extraordinary step of having us sort of get in their business of maintenance before. And when I heard about this in one of our staff meetings, I went out there and looked, and I went out and I took some pictures again today. And I showed the pictures to several people and asked them if they could see a difference in the turf between the parking lot of the dog park and the dog park. The parking lot in the dog park where no dogs and no people go, and the dog park, and it looked the same to them, and it really didn't look that dissimilar to me. The spots that Nick showed are really small spots and could be treated in a localized area and flagged off to keep people and dogs off of them. And I believe the maintenance is necessary could be done in a matter of a few days closure, not a 6-week closure. This looks like it's way overdone. In addition to that, out at Freedom, and secondly, the alternative, which is to build a little area out of Freedom, we just built 2 new baseball fields out there, so we're going to have a lot more parking problems out there and in this area, and create a lot more pressure on an already intensely used space. So If the board wants to go ahead and do this, I suggest strongly that we look at the other end of Freedom Park, where we're looking at putting the Miracle League field, because that's away from all the baseball activity and wouldn't add the congestion and the crowds of the dog people coming more directly onto the baseball traffic that's going to be there. In addition to that, if we build a Miracle League field there, there's not going to be grass there anyway. And what happened last time is there's so much intense use of this smaller space, we just wear that grass right down to dirt. And if we're going to just put rubberized surface down, doesn't matter anyway. So we don't have to worry about bringing that back. There's no alternative use for that surface that we need right away. So I personally don't think this is necessary, but if the board disagrees and wants to do it, I just suggest that we put the temporary spot at the other end of the park, not at the west end.
Yeah.
Well, after listening to Director Malloy, I'd like to know if Nick or anybody else on the staff has kind of a response to that. Do you feel that the option of closing just the bare areas and leaving the remainder of the park open is a reasonable option? Or
We have done that in the past, and that's definitely feasible. We could definitely look into that. The issue I would have with that is just the rest. As you get out further into the park, it's a lot better. I was out trying to pull plugs a couple weeks ago, and in the path of travel, it is so compacted, and there's no root zone. There's no root zone left. Actually, let me go. So all these tufts of grass, that's all rye. That's not really a sustainable grass when we start picking up with the heat and stuff. What we want is all that kikuyu and Bermuda to start eventually creeping in. And this. So this is basically where the new walk, the pavers and the DG path is over here. So that's right in front. The dog drinking fountain's over here. This is where everybody congregates and just. This is where the group of people are. Same with this area. This is where everybody's usually standing and socializing. And again, you can see all those tufts of grass. That's all rye. So is it doable? Yes, absolutely. The small dog park, we were thinking about even sodding a lot of those, like I had talked to Director Malloy about, sodding the worst areas, which we usually do. Again, the 6-week closure is just a rest period, just to let those roots, let those blades of grass get some rest. I mean, you're talking about compaction. I wasn't even getting my probe 2 inches into the ground, and when I pull it, there's no roots. There's just no root zone. So this is more. Is it necessary? In my opinion, it is. I would like to see the closure and let us keep this, because this is a unique park where we don't have a lot. I mean, other places to go where dog parks are completely grass. If we keep beating it and we just only giving it the week, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse as we go down the road. Could we shorten it? Absolutely. I'll take anything the board will give me. 4 weeks is better than no weeks. 2 weeks is better than nothing. I would like to see a 6-week closure and just to get that rest.
Can I finish? Yeah, my recollection is that when we closed this park for the renovations that were done, the the Freedom Park was very well accepted by the dog users. I got a lot of positive feedback on that.
And the main thing was the restrooms, and they loved having the restrooms, and the usability of the parking was right there. They were in and out, and then they had the restrooms.
Now, there are restrooms at the other end where Director Malloy was talking about. Would those be
there is.
accessible? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, where I'm coming from is, and obviously it's easier to shut down the entire dog park area,
right,
and work at it at one time. But if you're kind of cutting this thing in half, and we can still open up Freedom Park over there where Mark is talking about as a site, but maybe keep half of this park open, and then you can do your 6 weeks on one side and keep the same fence up, and then to ship the users over to the other half, and they still have the Freedom Park as an option too. Yeah. I'm wondering, would that make any sense or not?
It does. However, if you guys recall, we did that about probably 6 years ago, and the devastation on the other side, it was just almost, it outweighed itself because
Well-
we had to then go ahead and do the other side, and it was twice as much traffic. And I tell you what, if, in my opinion, if we don't close the entire park, you're probably going to get, you'll still have just about the same amount of usage.
Well, what I'm thinking about is that last time we did that 6 years, we didn't have Freedom Park open. So if we were to open up another site, like Mark said,
To alleviate some of the.
maybe that would take up some of the users. I'm just thinking out
Right.
loud. I don't know. Maybe that would take up some of the users, and then we can, if we divide that park roughly in half, and you fix up one side, and then you send us 6 weeks on the other side, and we also have that Freedom Park area, as Mark described. Maybe some of the users will go over there for a time, because they have the restroom and stuff. Maybe it would balance out to where, I don't know if that's a good idea, or I'm just trying to bounce it. I mean, I know, what you're saying, of course, is if all the users go to that one side, it's going to get heavily used.
Correct.
But,
And another thing, when we did that, we had quite a hard time because even though we redid the irrigation to split it, so we're going to be watering, upwards to 3 times a day. So now we're, putting.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be, that could become an issue as well.
Yeah, your sprinkler system
We're
isn't.
going to oversee the entire park and top dress a lot of the bad areas.
Right, you're going to have to keep it very moist.
Correct.
And stuff.
You'd also have a problem with walking path. The walking path has become really effective. Lots
absolutely.
Of people use
They
walking
love the work we've done up there. I mean, there's not one person that.
And
that's-
that walking path is one of the reasons the park is in as good a shape as it is now. And I guarantee you, if you walk up there and ask any user, does this park look like to you that it needs to be shut down for 6 weeks? They'll look at you like you're crazy, because it doesn't. It's not perfect. It's not what we like things to look like, but it's a very intensely used park, and that's just not in the cards. But, in the past, we shut it down in the winter when there was no baseball over at Freedom, and they could have all of that to themselves. It's going to be a completely different situation now, doing this during the springtime. And having taken care of baseball fields for decades, I know that this time of the year, the grass can fight back. You give it water and fertilizer, it'll grow like crazy. It can recover given some intense maintenance, and it doesn't need to be left alone for 6 weeks and ask hundreds of users per day to go someplace else.
Are you recommending like a 2-week period or something, or what? Or none at all? You're
Well,
just saying-
the period is actually dependent on how much they want to do and how long it takes. I mean, I could airate that whole park in 1 day.
Yeah, so
it
the
just depends on
maintenance
what you're
we
gonna
planned
do.
on doing in 3 to 5 days, all the turf maintenance, and then it was going to be about hopefully a 5-week rest period. The maintenance, that's something we could definitely knock out in 3 to 5 days.
Well, where I'm coming from, the problem I'm having is, let's say we shut it down for 1 week and you do all that maintenance. And part of that maintenance is you go in there, you put sod in certain areas. And I can see you putting up temporary fencing around the sod areas. The problem is you got to water that sod.
Yeah, if
And then
we're-
you're watering the sod, you're also watering the rest of the park, and the whole park would become muddy.
Yes and no, and again,
I don't know, I'm asking.
It depends where it's at and what zones we have. The way the irrigation's ran now.
We don't have any takeouts or anything for hand watering there, heavy duty.
We
Water?
do throughout
Or do
the
we?
park. Yeah, they're not all over, but I mean, we can stretch 100-foot hoses.
The bare spots are in the small dog area. And the bare spots are where the benches have been.
This is small dog park here. This is the big dog park. That's the big dog park. And that's a
Yeah,
small dog
That's
park.
a small dog park. And those areas are where the benches have been placed. When you place a bench somewhere and leave it there for months, you have a bare spot. And in an area that small, there's not a lot of places to put the benches, and it requires somebody actively move the benches regularly so that you don't completely kill a spot.
Right.
So to fix all that area would require resodding and would require that area be closed. Now, that area is about the size of the area on the other side of the fence between the parking lot. So we could alternatively put a temporary small dog park on the other side.
On
if
the
they
slope, on the slope coming down from
Right,
the
on
parking
slope
lot.
coming down, if they wanted to resod this. Personally, I'm not as excited about the prospects of resodding because you're just going to wear it out again. You know, it's going through a lot of work for a level of return that's not that great, but it would make it nicer. The problem is there's just so much more foot traffic per square foot on the smaller dog.
Well, I'm thinking, and I'm not sure, you know, you guys both know grass and everything, but if you put down sod, it takes a certain amount of time before you can use it.
6 weeks.
6 weeks?
This time of year, with a lot of water, it would be ready to go in 6 weeks.
And if you do a seeding, it's going to take more than that, isn't it?
Well, seeding will never survive in this environment. You're just wasting your time.
Okay, so we don't have, okay. Yeah, so we're going to do a
You'll never
sod.
get strong enough to survive.
Okay, okay.
So,
Okay, I'm just thinking.
seeding works great on a large open area, but on an area that gets as much traffic as this, the seed will never get strong enough. I learned that trying to reseed the front of pitcher's mounds. You can never get it strong enough, and then it's baseball season again, and then it's gone.
And then you sod it, and a week later, it's back down to dirt.
So you got to give the sod time to.
Or the on-deck circle.
Or the on-deck circle.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Kelly?
I propose that we invoke the time-honored tradition of punishing the messenger, that we hereby resolve that we offer Nick in sacrifice in place of this board, who would otherwise be the subject of ridicule, invective, locker room language that would certainly be directed at the board if such a measure is not offered to please the angry dog park patrons.
Well, thank you.
And therefore, I don't think, I've been there and done that, don't need this exercise. I don't think we should close the park. Sorry, Nick.
That's okay. Now I don't know. I do remember my question, but I'm going to get it out. Mary, that area over by the Officers Club, that would be a possibility. Don't we rent that out on a continuing basis? Or the area that we had the dog park move last time, we don't usually rent out?
So the dog park area that's back where we had it before, very rarely do we rent that out. The area that's typically rented out on the east side is by the Officers Club. The area that's not typically rented out or very limited is kind of over right behind, well, it'd be on the east side, but it'd be on the southeast side. So we don't typically see a lot of users in that area.
And she answered my follow-up question. She knows me too well, so. Okay.
I'd like to make
Oh, go ahead.
comments. You know, I've sort of made it a habit as we travel around, my wife and I, when we see a dog park, I always go to look at it. And the dog parks in this area are dramatically better than just about anything I've seen anywhere throughout the state.
100% agree.
Even very nice areas like Marin County and things don't have dog parks like this. That being said, the people have become accustomed to having these really nice parks, and so I think in some ways I'm not a turf expert in any sense, and so I tend to put my trust in the recommendations that the staff makes because they're hired to be specialists and know what to do with this sort of thing. So I see us kind of moving in a direction of either, you know, if we're going to just stay on fragile grass that's already in bad shape and continue to wear it down, eventually we're going to have parks like other communities have. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because other communities get by just fine with that. But I think that our community is pretty demanding in terms of what they expect at these parks, and I tend to favor following your recommendations. We did get a very great response when the dog park was opened down at Freedom Park, and I would tend to favor going that direction. The biggest two complaints you get that I hear about dog parks is the second most common complaint is that it's closed. The most common complaint is that it's muddy. So if we got to deal with one, mud or closed, I think I'd rather deal with closed temporarily.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, go
with
ahead.
Nick, if we were to open up the area that Mark was talking about at Freedom Park. And also open up that area, as Mark mentioned, between the existing dog park at Springville and the parking lot on that slope, and kind of fence that off. I mean, I know there's a dirt section there, but so that people really have, if they want to go to Springville, the part behind the gate is closed, but out in front of the fence line, they'll have a small area there, and they'll have a much larger area over at Freedom Park. I'm wondering, that way you can do that for 6 weeks. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, that's
Will that interfere with your work at
or we wouldn't be able to
Springville?
do that until after the first week because that's our only access unless we put another access gate on the other side. That's the only place we come in with our tractors and trucks. That's our only double gate. So after the first week of closure, 3 to 5 days, then we could look at putting a fence up. That would be an additional cost.
Yeah, it'd double the fencing budget. It'd take it from.
Because we have 2 fences up
Correct.
instead of
We'd have
one.
$4,000 into that.
What do you think about that, Mark? I'm just trying to brainstorm.
Well, I don't think you need the Freedom Park
If we did that?
spot if you only close the small dog park side, because you have plenty of space for an equivalent size small dog park side there.
Yeah, out front's probably even larger than that small dog park.
Yeah, it is. And, but if you close the whole park for 6 weeks, then, you know, you need something else. And,
If you did that and used that smaller, could you do it in 4 weeks? I know it wouldn't give you the 6 weeks that you would like, but it would, because I truthfully believe, Nick, that we're going to have 10 days of rain starting next week, and it's going to be down anyhow, so.
Again, our maintenance is going to take 3 to 5 days. And after that, it's just going to be a rest period. We'll be out there monitoring it, of course, and you know, putting a little extra water down if we do sod. That was the plan. But the 5 weeks, again, was just to keep everybody off of it, let that soil and that turf rejuvenate, and it's peak grow. We're coming into peak growing season just to get that stuff kicked off, and you know, be ready for summer.
Any other questions? Somebody want to make some type of a motion?
Mark, what?
well, I'll make, my motion is that we not close the dog park, that we provide the amount of maintenance that we can provide with the park remaining open.
Second.
Karen? Or is there any discussion on that?
If
you
I may,
gonna-
so are we talking a week? Do you
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, well,
To do our maintenance.
Yeah, to do
So
the
no sodding. We'll just go in, aerify, top dress. I'll go ahead and still oversee the entire park because we're going to aerify. So we'll get that. The idea is when we aerify, we seed right after, and we're getting our seed down, you know, 2 to 3 inches in the ground, so it's already protected. And then we do a layer of topper over it. So once it's above ground, it's already, you know, we're already getting roots established. So will it all lot? No, but will it help? Yes, it'll fill in, and so.
And Mark, are you
just
also
wanna be
including, still opening up for that week or more freedom, or not?
no.
Oh, so we shut the whole thing down?
Yeah, not for a week.
It's baseball season out there.
I want to put
No,
a
I'm
fence
just
up.
asking.
We have 9 fields there now.
Yeah, yeah.
We have the radio control car guys. We have a lot of stuff going on out there. When we did this before it was wintertime, and none of that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
This is just,
And does your motion include not closing the small dog park either?
yes, does not, not closing anything other than for short-term maintenance.
Yeah, so we'll just go in there and we'll beat that up pretty heavy with equipment. We'll loosen the soil and just do what we can do.
So basically, we're closing it for 1 week.
If that's what Nick needs, 1 week, yeah.
Okay,
Short-term closure.
okay.
Everybody on the same page? Do you have where we're headed, Karen?
Well, yet, you want to take a vote?
There's a
I want to
motion
make
on
sure
the-
she has what the motion is first, okay?
1 week closure for maintenance.
Okay, all right, and no temporary. Okay,
Excuse me.
you can take the roll call now.
Director Malloy,
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Mishler?
Aye.
Director Dixon?
No.
Chair Magner?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. C, nominations for candidate for CSDA Board of Directors, seat B. Megan?
Good evening, Chair Magner and members of the board. So I'm here tonight for the California Special Districts Association. They're seeking a special district member for their board. So you could nominate a board member or the general manager for the CSDA Board of Directors, seat B, for the 2020-2022 term. So the leadership of the CSDA is elected from 6 different geographical networks. Our district falls within the coastal network. There are 3 seats, and they stagger them throughout 3 terms. So the CSDA Board of Directors is responsible for a plethora of things, but focuses on policy decisions, legislative advocacy, and education resources. So what would that person be responsible for? You would attend meetings up in Sacramento, participate on at least 1 committee, attend legislative days, go to the annual CSDA conference, and complete 4 modules at the CSDA annual Special Districts Leadership Academy. So this would take place before this Friday, March 6th. We would have to nominate that person, turn in the paperwork. The week of March 9th through the 13th, there would be interviews conducted. There would be somebody appointed by the current full board, the CSDA full board, on March 27th, and the new position would take office April 1st, 2020. There is no fiscal impact at this time to the Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District, so it is recommended that the board provide direction regarding a nomination for CSDA seat B.
Okay, I'm going to speak because that's not the full story. So this is a partial term. One of our board members left our board due to his termination from his employment. And so this is approximately 2 years and 7 months that they will be appointed by the board for that period of time. It is a, you guys know how much travel I do, and but I'm on the executive board, so this would not be quite that much travel. So, so if anyone is interested, speak up, or if you would like to wait, there's also going to be another chance in about a month and a half. Have we received that notification yet? For seat C, I want to say, seat C, which will be a full year term. So, and I will be doing the interviews next week. So that'll give you a little bit more background on what's going on with it. So I will turn it over to the 4 of you if you've got a discussion on it. Mark?
Not me. Sacramento's the last place on earth I want to travel to.
Neil?
No, I'm not interested either.
Okay, Mark.
I don't have enough gas money.
Okay, all right. Does someone want to make a motion that we will, or we'll just give staff direction that there's no one interested at this point?
There's a general manager.
Oh, Mary, are you interested?
Mary, would you like to?
I think I have enough things on my plate right now, thank you.
Okay. I think we'd had that conversation, so I was not even thinking about her. So, okay, thank you, guys. All right, thank you, Megan. All right. Moving right along. Informational items. First one is mine. I don't have much to say. Kind of a short agenda tonight, and I appreciate everyone moving along and having good discussion. And I do appreciate the 6 members of the equestrian group coming, and I'm glad that they took the committee's recommendation and took off with that questionnaire. I think that'll provide us valuable input. My only concern with that is where the dollars are going to come from. So that would be my biggest concern with that. So, but other than that, just always appreciate the staff, and I know the water bill is probably going up because of the heat and lack of rain. So I know that Brandon and Nick and Bob have been working hard to make sure the parks look as beautiful as they do. And every day when I drive by parks, I'm just amazed. I told somebody yesterday, they were talking about one of the parks, and I said, we have 27 other ones, and they were astounded that they didn't realize we had that many parks. So I don't think many people understand what the staff is responsible for. So once again, thank you to all of you. Ventura County Special Districts Association, we have not had a meeting since our last meeting of the board. CSDA, we've not had a meeting either. I'm going up tomorrow for an executive board meeting, so we'll know kind of what's going to be happening with the legislative. Mary, I think, will have part of her report. Are you going to report on that letter? That take action report? Okay, if you would, please. I'm not going to, so. Okay, Mike, the Ventura County Consolidation Oversight Board?
We had no meeting since the last, our last monthly meeting here.
Okay. Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy?
Yes, I attended the meeting last week, and basically, most of the focus of the meeting is they're really gearing up. They're worried about all these fires we've been having. So they're really doing stuff for clearing out weeds and trees, old trees and all that type of stuff. And the big focus, they have, over 60,000 acres or something. And so they're really focused on they can't cover everything, but they're trying to set up priorities and try to do as much as they can to try to get that under control before the fire season starts. That's all.
Okay. Standing committees, Finance, Mark?
Yeah, you mentioned water, and that's one of the few standout expense items that we're running a little high on, obviously, because we've had no rain. And being, basically 10% of our total budget water, it's a pretty significant bite, but it's one of those things that we can catch back up pretty fast if we get a good deep rain. There's some forecast rain next week. It doesn't look like it's going to be that substantial. But overall, we're in tremendous shape budget-wise because our income side is so much higher than budget. The property tax was substantially higher than what we forecasted. So all of that stuff is in line and comfortable.
Okay. Liaison? Neil?
Well, yeah, Neil and I had the meeting with the city this week on Monday, and everything's moving forward. What we have a master plan moving forward, and we have two parallel paths going down. The city's doing what's required for their SEQA process and timelines, and then Mary will be following up with LPA. We have to get some architect elevation plans for the buildings. We already got the footprint and stuff, and we need to move forward before the SEQA process really kicks off and look and come back with some architectural drawings that we approve. So there's going to be some meetings coming up. Mary's working with LPA on that. We're going to have the first meeting to gather input from the surrounding community and stuff. And then the second one is to go over some design considerations for how the new potential structure would look and stuff. And then that will feed into the SEQA process. And Mary will also be working with the city and coming out with kind of a master schedule timeline, roughly, to show where we are and what the process is we're going through. Did I miss anything, Neil, or that?
No, that's it.
That it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Long-range planning, I guess, is next week?
Next week, right?
Okay. Personnel is in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Personnel.
I only got paid for one meeting, so that was the regular meetings.
You can tell by your pay stub, huh?
Yeah. I got
Okay.
it tonight.
Okay. Policy, Mary and Megan are working on rescheduling. My husband put a kink into our schedule, so we can blame Mr. Magner, so. Ad hoc, Journey, I think that was a item tonight, and that will close out that ad hoc committee. Miracle League, we have our first meeting on Monday, is that correct? Monday the 9th, okay, is our first meeting with the Miracle League. Rancho, I seen something on that.
The 5th, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. So we'll get a report next month. Okay, Foundation for Pleasant Valley Recreation and Parks. Had a good meeting last month. We have a new board member, and we're always in the hunt for new board members, and we appreciate her stepping up and joining our board. We will be having a eating out again at Spencer McKenzie's on April 9th. Is that what, 4 to 9, or is that all day? There's no time? Okay. So be sure to get your flyers, and if you, I know Megan will post something so on the Facebook page so we can get it out to everybody to, I don't know how we did last time, but we'll find out that. Also, mark your calendars, save the date, August 1st will be our party for the parks. We're in the planning process for that, so we will have a guest at our next meeting who will come and give us some lowdown on the process that we might be utilizing. So Jackie has said she will come and we'll talk about what we might be doing, and Megan and Ryan can fly back. How's that? All right. General Manager's report.
Okay, a couple things. As Chairman Magner had mentioned, in the back of your packet, there is information regarding a bill which has now come back as 2093, which the district is opposed. It's the emails, so it would be, once again, it's come back as 2 years of holding all emails, doesn't matter how significant, insignificant. So we've opposed that, sent the opposed letter for that specific. I've got a legislative committee meeting coming up here next week that kind of goes over all the updated legislation. The pool is coming along. We're still on target with that. I'm going to actually have Eric talk a little bit. One of the things that we're looking at and in the process of doing is changing our website over. So our website right now, most of the website isn't compliant with some of the rules. So we've been working with Streamline to get that up and moving. So Eric's going to show a little bit of what they've been working on right now, just so everybody knows as we're transitioning through that process.
That's good. Thank you. So the way staff have viewed the current website is it's a lot more than what we really need. Our website is an information portal. We currently don't do any point of sale. We don't do any registrations. That's done through our recreation management software, ActiveNet. So really the website is just a portal for information for people wanting to know about dog park closures or special events or just general programming. So in looking at other options, both Chair Magner, Mr. Miller, myself, as many other staff have worked with Streamline at various conferences and the seminars. And what they provide to not only CSDA, but other local agencies is above and beyond what we are currently getting in terms of service as well as a product. So got a couple teaser photos for you. Anthony and I have a call 10 a.m. on Friday to continue this process. They're currently in development of the back end, and we're looking towards migrating in the next few weeks. So this is a a quick teaser, if you will, of what the new website will look like. This is not by any means final. It's still a work in progress, but it highlights everything that we'll need. It will be compliant with all the new laws, enterprise systems, SB 929 or whatever it is, as well as a lot of other things that we're currently working through with our current provider. It will have one-click access to board meeting items, which is required, and really just the flow of it. It will be a lot easier, not only on the web, but mobile as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
I assume that you're also working with people who link into that, like the city, because like the city website has links into our stuff. So I'm assuming you will be working with them once we get ready to roll out.
Yes, it will have all important links, whether it be the city, the county. We currently use a software for our activity guide, so all the links will be there as required.
Well, the city's linking into ours is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So we have to
all of those will
obviously
be-
connect with them.
Right.
And
All of those will be updated as
Okay.
we go through the process. So,
Yeah, Mike, Streamline does this internationally, so.
No, I'm
You gotta-
familiar
No,
with their product.
I understand, but Sloan and her group are on top of what legal, and that's the big thing, is what legally needs to be done and how we can do it more efficiently, so, yeah.
they will actually help us in the long run, not only from the legal standpoint, but the amount of time right now that we're trying to work with Granicus, that's an older system, that Emily spends probably 30% of her time on average on a weekly basis to just get stuff updated. It's becoming cumbersome, and we can't even get all the stuff updated. So going with Streamline is going to help us both. We'll have a better price, better product, and it'll actually link up much
Yeah,
better.
I think people may be confused. I'm not complaining that we're
No.
doing any of this. I'm simply saying there are other agencies that link into us, and we don't even know they're linking into us, right? And so we just have to make sure we're coordinating with them so that as we change our product, their links will be modified so that their links will still work from external links into ours.
Director, we'll go ahead and make sure that's done from the end user's perspective. So if you're logging on to the website right now, www.pvrpd.org, there will be no significant change to how you access the website. It will just be the interface. But we'll go ahead and make sure that those items are taken care of.
Okay. So other than that, going to take a couple seconds just to thank Megan for all that she's done for us for the last 2 years or so, being that this will be her last board meeting, and she leaves at the end of this month, and we'll be heading down to Texas. As much as I keep saying it won't be until August, it actually is at the end of this month. So thank you, Megan, for everything that you've done for the last couple of years for the district. So, and wish you and your family much success.
Okay. Oral communications? Does anybody else have anything else that's just oral communications?
Sure. 4 meetings last month, Finance on the 19th, Journey Ad Hoc on the 21st, the Daktronic sign demo out in the parking lot on the 26th, which was fascinating to see the progress that technology has made. And then Camarillo Pony Baseball's opening day on last Friday, the 28th, out at Freedom Park. And upcoming meetings, we've got next week, Miracle League on Monday, Long Range on Tuesday, and Ran Rancho and Hoc on Thursday. Ran Rancho is the new park out at Springville. We'll be meeting with the developer. And then there's one other bit of news that I'm sure the community knows nothing about. Some of you did because Mary emailed it, but $2.3 billion worth of Prop 68 Round 3 grants were submitted, and the state filled 255 million of them last week, and not included was any money for us. The only Prop 68 grant money awarded in Ventura County went to the city of Oxnard, $8.5 million for the expansion of Campus Park, and that's the same city of Oxnard that reduced their irrigation budget for their parks by $500,000 this year. So they can't take care of the ones they have, but they're about to get a really nice new one. More important for us, is we laid out a aggressive series of upgrades for a very tired old park, our Neal Ranch. And now we need to look and see which of those upgrades that we can reasonably afford next year and the years beyond. Because it's just because the state's not going to pay us to do it doesn't mean it doesn't need to get done. And certainly the park needs to be shut down so the irrigation system can be replaced. Staff has my complete support on that. The irrigation system has been band-aided by our staff for decades out there, so that certainly is something that needs to be done. And there's also some of the other ideas that we came up with that I think we can implement pretty cost-effectively that will make the park much nicer and more usable for the community. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the subject that's everybody's heard a lot about. It's in the news. It's affecting international trade. It's affecting, all kinds of things that are going on. That's this so-called coronavirus. There's being in the business that I'm in and interacting with people, there's a whole lot of misunderstanding about what this is all about. First of all, coronavirus is not really quite an accurate name because there are a number of different coronaviruses which cause human infections, including the common cold, and people have compared this to the common cold, which is inaccurate. The true name of this virus is the SARS-CoV-19. And if you recognize that name, SARS, it's the same group of viruses that caused the infamous SARS infection that was going on in China a number of years ago, where there were about 800 deaths. That virus was highly lethal. The lethality of that virus is one of the reasons why it really didn't become a pandemic, is because people who got it had a high probability of being seriously ill and early quarantined, or they died. The current COVID-19 virus has been compared to the common cold and compared to the flu virus, and there's a misconception about how dangerous this virus is. It is not anything near what the SARS virus was, but it is not the flu. It's more dangerous. Although the number of deaths in the United States in 2019 from the flu was about 16,000, and I think in the United States we have somewhere around 10 deaths from this current infection. That would make you think that it's much less lethal, but it's relative to the number of people who've become infected. The projected mortality rate for the flu is patients who become symptomatic have a mortality rate of about 0.4%. With the COVID-19 virus, the mortality rate is around 2%, so approximately 5 times the mortality rate. So it is a significant infection. It's not going to decimate the United States, but it is a serious infection. And as an agency that deals with group activities and populations that are at risk, I think this is something that needs to be on our radar. The most at-risk groups are the elderly, people with other comorbid conditions, diabetes, cancer, other immunosuppressive conditions. And with our senior center and a lot of activities we have going on, we need to be aware of this. It isn't something that we need to panic about, but we need to pay attention. And it's as far as prevention, the problem with this virus relative to something like the SARS virus is that there are a lot of people out there who carry this virus, who are infected, who are minimally symptomatic and may not feel hardly ill at all. And so they go to work, they go out into the community, they're active, and they're spreading the virus. That is actually the less lethal nature of it is actually one of the problems in containing it, is because there are so many people that have such a low level of symptoms that they are out there spreading it around. The best protection is the old-fashioned hand washing. The alcohol gels are also effective, but actually plain old soap and water is the most effective, more effective than the alcohol gels. So I consider the antibacterial gels as a second line prevention. Secondly, people who are sick should not be going to work, should not be coming to events that we're having. So I'd like to see us maybe instituting policies where we're paying attention, maybe advising people if we're having bingo or other events where we're drawing crowds into a compact environment, that we are advising them if they're ill, please don't come. That we do have prevention methods, soap and water and antibacterial gels and that sort of thing available. That we have staff cleaning surfaces and things like that between events to minimize the risks. And unfortunately, at the present time, there is really not a lot of rapid testing available. Right now, you can go into the emergency room and have a swab, and then 10 minutes later, they'll tell you if you've got the flu. We don't have that with this virus at this time. The federal government is working on developing rapid testing programs, but right now that has not been instituted. So most emergency rooms, if you go in there, they're not going to swab you and tell you if you have this infection or not. It is recommended that if you are concerned that you might have this infection, don't go to the emergency room. The emergency rooms are filled with people who are vulnerable populations, and if you do have it, you're likely to spread it. Most people who do get infected are safe to stay home and basically self-quarantine. They can contact their doctor and find out how to best get tested or even if they should be tested. Right now, a lot of it is if you have suspicious symptoms, you're just advised to stay out of the general public and keep in touch with your doctor. If you're getting ill, most people will recover without having any serious side effects. So I don't know whether this has been a discussion within the organization or not, but I think it is important that we're paying attention, not overreacting, but being aware and using common sense precautions. So.
Thank you, Neil. Bob?
I don't think I have anything, but I do have a question of Dr. Dixon. How much of the spread of this virus is through contact with, like contact that comes about by the use of hands, coming to the face, contact with a tabletop, as opposed to infections that apparently occur just from being within a few feet of a person who's breathing that has it?
Mm-hmm. It is primarily, now I'm not an epidemiologist or an infectious disease specialist, so my knowledge may be imperfect in some of these areas, but it is, my understanding, a droplet spread infection. So sneezing, coughing, those are the sorts of things that aerosolize the virus, and it is highly contagious. If you're in close proximity to somebody who coughs and is infected, you have a pretty good chance you're going to pick it up. Contact with surfaces. I don't know what the life of the virus is on surfaces, but certainly as long as there's moisture in the area where the virus has been spread, it's likely to be picked up from a hard surface. I don't know if that answers. Did I cover all the question? Or
pretty much. I was just unaware that it was. I think what you're describing is it's kind of like a cold, that you get it the same way.
Yes, it's
So you don't get it just from somebody breathing around you.
It's unlike it would have to. It's typically aerosolized viruses. So I suppose if you were really very, very, very close to someone in your immediate family, it's conceivable you could spread it that way.
Well, that one case where the man took another man to the hospital, mm-hmm. and then he got it just from being in the car with him.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he coughed one time or something like that, but it was fairly short duration, yeah. And And the other stories about how if a person in a family gets it, almost everybody else in the family gets it also.
It is highly contagious. And so being in close proximity with someone who's sick, you're likely to get it. So
Not good.
no.
Isn't the fatality rate a lot higher for older people, too?
Yes, that's what I meant by vulnerable populations. With it's the elderly, it's people who have other conditions that compromise their immune system, and diabetes, cancer, other pre-existing infections. The good news in it is that the pediatric population somehow seems to be relatively spared by this. So children do not seem to be highly susceptible to this infection, at least based on epidemiology so far.
One more question, a somewhat morbid one. The people that die from this, what kills them?
Respiratory failure.
And there's nothing they can do, obviously.
There's all the supportive measures. People can go on, if they need to, they go on a ventilator and hopefully there really is no treatment at that case. At that point, what you do is you treat them supportively, and hopefully they are able to recover through their own immune system. But some don't.
Well, I have one fun question, follow-up question then. Coronaviruses, don't they, help me out, during the summer, when the heat goes up, does the infection rate kind of slow down or not?
The infection rate typically does slow down, yeah.
So potentially as we get into the summer, it won't go away, but it may lessen in terms of being visible, being spread around.
Yeah. Yeah, we could see a lull in the number of infections over the warmer months. The problem is the virus won't be gone, and the timetable for developing a vaccine is long. The Chinese actually are already, since they don't have the limitations on human experimentation that we have in this country, they are proceeding more rapidly with developing vaccines using military volunteers.
Volunteers.
I was just going to say, you said volunteers. I'm not sure
There's also a significant number of cases in the southern hemisphere that's already in summer. So the hope that this virus will behave like the flu virus, which is to be less trouble in this, it's not necessarily indicated because this thing is so contagious.
Well, I just want to pass on, thank you, Neil. I just want to pass on to staff, I'm looking at Mary there, that as we're looking at implementing various things, can you update us all with emails to everybody here on the board, of course, if we're going to be changing any of our processes, put up signs or warnings or something and stuff, as time goes on.
So we've already, at this point, just to kind of give everybody a heads up. So in contact with both the city manager as well as Kara, as well as our neighbors up the hill to kind of see how that's going and what everybody's doing to kind of figure out protocol, obviously, kind of in different times. This hasn't really happened before. So we're already doing that. Passing information on to both staff as well as other people. So like we posted, getting information from the CDC. So keeping up with that, keeping up with information from the Ventura County Health, because they're the ones that are going to be directing this. So it won't be the city, it won't be us, it will be Ventura County that will have the override or say what this looks like. But things that we can do, we actually had this discussion earlier today, but earlier in the week, have posted signs about, washing your hands, making sure they're clean. We'll be posting more signs. That's both at the senior center as well as our facility. Actually, had a staff meeting today with the managers about looking at cleanliness and actually purchasing some of the standalone with the sanitizer to put those in some of the higher use areas, such as the senior center, to start looking at some of those things. So we are doing some of those basic things to make sure. Obviously, as Director Dixon said, there's still some unknowns, so we haven't gotten to the point where we're closing senior centers or doing any of that yet, but we are mindful and keeping an eye on what some of those things do look like. So that's kind of where we're at right now with that process. So we are trying to do the basic things as far as, cleanliness and making sure we're wiping stuff down. I think Karen can probably attest customer service, depending on if somebody comes in and is cold. Like, I think that office smells like Lysol. So trying to do at least some of the preventative stuff that we can take steps to. So tomorrow, actually working on some messages to our contract instructors, and we'll be doing some of those things as well to make sure they're aware of this as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the process.
I have one more thing. Shouldn't we put those standalones outside the district office as well as the senior center, and everybody that goes in there has to use it on their hands?
Well,
That's question one.
Yeah, so the idea is that we'll have 6 of them. One will probably be, whether it's on the inside or the outside of the district office, one will be at the senior center, and then that will leave us a couple extras to put them depending on where we have. So let's say we have a class in the auditorium on a Wednesday and there's 200 people in there, that will allow us to move those accordingly, hence the freestanding. So that's kind of where we're at right now with that.
And one more for the doc. Why is it that the news tells us that the masks don't work unless they're a certain type of mask? It's more like a rebreather or I forget what they call them.
The N19.
But if you wear a normal mask, which would seem would contain the droplets and so forth within the mask, why is it that they don't work?
You know, there's been studies on the use of masks, and masks come in different kinds of ratings. The degree to which the size of particles they can filter out, and also the duration of time that they're effective. And most masks are probably ineffective after anywhere from 1 to 2 or 3 hours. And
So if it would be somebody coughing in the mask, and it would be coming through the holes in the mask?
They would already have impregnated the mask with the bacteria, and then the flow of air through that is going to just be transmitting them.
I see.
So
I have a question. Since I'm the traveler on this group and leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's my understanding from a pre-med student, so I'll tell you, I give some credence to it, that the actual sanitizer is more antibacterial than antiviral.
That's true.
And that you need to get something that's at least 60% alcohol, or that's the recommended.
That's true. The data I've seen on it is that alcohol-based sanitizers for viruses are about 85% effective, whereas plain old soap and water is close to 99% effective. So.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to ride on the airplane tomorrow, so do I get my little white gloves on and my hat? I don't know, but thanks for the conversation, and thanks for the information, Neil. It doesn't make me any easier about traveling, but I've got so many trips coming up, but just everyone try to stay as well as you can, and I know our office has gone through a real-time, what Mary says, it's what Petri's dish in there, so I've tried to stay away from everybody because everybody's got children and things, so no hugging and everything, so. But thank you, everyone, and thank you for a shorter meeting, and appreciate that. So with that, we will adjourn.